Okay, home stretch. Welcome back to Character Rigging for Beginners. This is part 12, and this we're just going to be cleaning up our rig that we've created so that we are all done. Okay, so basically what we've got to do is just start getting everything organized, locking out channels, and just getting it all ready for animators to use in a way that won't break everything that we've worked so hard on. Okay, so looking in our outliner here, we have a lot of stuff. Got a lot of stuff here, and we've got to start cleaning it up. Okay, so I have this control here, and it's called my global control. Okay, and this is basically the world of my character. Okay, and this is used to place my character in scene, point it in the direction we need it to be facing for the duration, and generally act as its world. Okay, so in order to make this, all I did was I went up to my Create Curve tools, and I went to the EP Curve tool, and underneath the tool settings, you can go to Linear, and you can go hit V or X, I'm sorry, to snap to the grid, and basically just start making an arrow. Like that. Okay? And then obviously I did it over here, and then I just kind of moved my control points and everything, and named it the global control. Okay, sometimes it's called the world control, but yeah, that's what it does. Okay, so everything that we have is going to live inside of this control, okay, minus a few things. Okay, so first thing we want to do is anything that isn't a part of a group, that isn't a part of the hierarchy here, like our IK arms, our legs, which actually are part of the hierarchy, so we don't have to worry about those. But any controls that we have that are outside of the hierarchy of these joints, we need them to be a part of that at some place. All right, so what we're going to do is these controls that are living outside of that hierarchy, we're going to select, and we're just going to hit Control and select that global and parent them under the global. Okay, other things we want in the global is, oh, I'm showing shapes. We don't need to show shapes. Okay, other things that we're putting in here is our skeleton. So the root of the skeleton is going to come in here, and the reason why we have that be a part of that global there is in case we want to account for scaling of our character. We want to bring them in and we want to make them large or small, it's going to be done off of this. So you can see everything is kind of working except for that bag. And so what we're going to do is we need to set up just a scale constraint from our global to the bag, because this isn't a part of the joint hierarchy. It's not set up in a normal way. Same with our jetpack. So we'll go up and we'll select that and then shift select our bag and go to constrain, and there's a scale constraint. We're just going to constrain the bag itself to that. And then we're going to do the same thing with our jetpack. So I'll just hit G to do that again. Okay? So now that these are all set up, I can scale, and my character scales at the right size. Okay, if I don't have all these controls in there, if I don't have that skeleton in here, this is what happens. Right? Oh, it looks so bad. You know, it's moving stuff. You know, we're having all this weird wonkiness happen and not scaling the way that we want it to. Okay, and that's because we're scaling only our exoskeleton, so to speak, right? Just our controls. And our controls, they are constraining and moving these joints, but they have no connection with our scale at all. Okay? As soon as we put that root in there, the scale of our skeleton, in everything that is a child of that, gets that scaling inherited. Okay, so they'll all scale. So we just move it under that global control there. Okay, and now we're just going to start cleaning a few things up. Okay, so I have the wrong thing there. Okay. All right, so I have this in here. Now I'm really going to take my root control, my foot, my arm, all of these, and I'm going to group them together. Okay, and this is just an organization group. It has really no other function. So we're going to call this our controls group. And then we're going to come over to our root skeleton here, and we can do the same thing, group it to itself, and call this our joints or skeleton group, just like that. And then we want our world orient in there as well, right? As we've set up our head and our feet to work off of the world, and we're saying this control is our character's world. So when we move that, and we're moving that orient group, then it's going to move too. Otherwise, we'll get this result. Whoa, we're getting weird things happening. Okay, especially when I switch my IKs back over and turn those on. Then I'll get a little more crazy now. Or not. What are these parented to? Oh, these are a part of the controls group, which is where they should be. Okay. But we want to keep that in here. So our world orient group is a child of that. And okay. All right. So that is there. Now we have all of these, right? We've got all of our geometry, okay? So we're going to take all of our geometry, everything, and we're going to group it to itself, Control G, and we're going to name this our geometry or mesh. Either one is fine. Doesn't matter. As long as it makes sense, it's logical. Okay, so that's our geometry. Now our geometry, we don't want to be a part of that global. Okay, and that's because our joints are controlling everything about our geometry. Okay, so if we put our geometry in our global control there, we'd think, oh yeah, that's all nice, everything's all packaged together. But now if I want to scale, this is what's going to happen. So you see we've got our joints here and all of our controls are here, but then our body is twice as big. Okay, and that's called a double transform. Okay, because our global control is already scaling all the joints, which is influencing our geometry of the body, then it's also getting it, so now that skin, this body, and all these elements are being influenced by the joints and the global control. And the global control is affecting our joints as well, so you get this double loop here. So we're going to take that out. Okay. That the whole group. Take that out, and then what we'll do, oh man, I'm grabbing the wrong stuff. I'll just undo. Okay, there we go. So now we'll take our global control and our geometry, and we'll select both of those and we'll group it. And then we're going to call this our Tesla character. Okay. I'm not worrying about this cartwheel skin and this reference here. That was set up for my mocap. That's not a part of my rig, so I'm not going to be dealing with that. Okay, so now this nice group contains our whole rig. So when someone references in our rig, they're going to see just this, nice and clean. Okay, and looks really nice. Okay. So the things we want to do now is we've got to go through and we've got to start eliminating and locking out the control that our animators can have. Okay, because there's some stuff we haven't set up and haven't allotted for their any influence to be, like scale. Okay, this is not set up to scale the foot. We don't want to let our animators think that, hey, I can scale that foot. Because if they can access it, they're most likely going to mess with it, and we don't want that. Okay, so anything that we don't want, we need to lock out those channels. So we're going to start from the top. This character group is just organization. We don't want them doing any sort of translating, scaling, messing with the visibility. So we're going to select all these channels and right click and then come down and lock and hide selected. Just like that. Okay. And then we're going to want to go in and look, I'm seeing my reverse foot here, so I want to find that. So I'll come over here with my foot control selected and hit F to frame it, and there's my reverse foot. I'm going to turn that off. Okay, so that hides that. And now I'm going to go in my geometry group, same thing. I don't want them turning anything off, so I'm going to select everything and do a lock and hide selected. Okay, so that is set up. Now that controls group that we made, same thing. No control, lock and hide selected. Okay, and a world orient group. I'm going to lock and hide everything on that. Our joints group, we're going to lock and hide everything on that. Okay, so now they don't have these options. Okay, to turn those on or off, right? They go here, you hit W with that selected, and look, I can't move it, I can't rotate it, I can't scale it, can't do anything with it, okay? And then we're going to go in and we're going to start doing that. So the global control, we want scale, we probably just don't want visibility. They can have control over everything else. So we'll lock and hide just that one channel. Okay, and now we're going to do this for every single one of our controls. Okay, and we can select multiple controls and like this and say, oh, okay, these can all have translate and rotate, but none of them will have scale X, Y, and Z or visibility that will do anything. So we're going to lock and hide the selected on that. Okay, and we're going to do that for all of our controls. Okay, so all the way down, any of these controls, we don't want them messing with the scale, and the visibility isn't going to do anything for them. So we're going to lock and hide that. For our arms, if we set up only orient constraints for our FK, so I've locked out everything except for our rotate. That's all they can affect here. So on my right side, I haven't done that yet. So I'll select all three of those and I'll select my translate X, Y, and Z and my rotate and lock and hide selected. Okay. And I'm going to do that with all of my controls. Okay, and once you've done that and you've selected those things, you can hit G when you're over here in your screen, and it will recall that last command, and it will lock and hide those effectors there. Okay, so we're going to do that for all of our controls, right? We'll switch our IK-FK switch. We'll do it for these eyes. We're going to do that, okay? Once we're happy with that, we are going to do the same for our groups of all the characters. Okay, so this is locked out, but our group has all of this. So our animators, it's very common to pick walk up and be like, oh, I already have this wrist selected. I want to select my elbow, and so they'll hit their up arrow key to get to their elbow. But if they hit it only once, we have our group that we've used to orient our control set up there. And if they don't realize that and they start moving it, it's going to mess up all these values, right? Which is going to mess up the control. It's going to mess up their animation. It's going to break our rig. Okay, so we don't want that. So we're going to go in and we're going to do the same thing. So they're serving their purpose and they're doing great, and we're going to lock and hide selected. Okay, and we're going to do that with all these wonderful controls and all these groups. Okay, so all these groups are going to be like that. Okay, so, and then we have stuff like our head that we've created this rotate X, Y, and Z on. And, don't worry about that. You can still lock and hide, and the functionality that we have placed in there is still going to work. So any constraints, any connections that we have will still work. However, if you go back in and you try to make a change and you need to connect a control to something else, say you just overlooked something, or the animators came back when they tested your rig and they said, hey, we'd like to have this control on there. Can you make a switch for this? And you say, okay, yeah. And you go in and you need to do that and set it up on that parent group, or on scale X, Y, and Z, or some channel that you've locked out. Okay, so if you have locked out your channels and you need to get them back in order to make connections, so we will lock and hide that, right? So say we wanted to get back to that head shape and make some changes and make a connection. With those locked and hidden, we can't do that. Maya won't let us. It'll say, hey, these are locked. You can't access these values. So how do we get those back? Okay, so when you go to that group that we just locked out, and we go into our channel box and we click on edit, and there's a channel control. Okay, now the channel control thing is really weird because it has these two different tabs, keyable and locked, and you'll notice all these columns. There's keyable, non-keyable hidden, non-keyable displayed, and then locked. So we can see everything here that is locked, right? And then this is everything that's non-keyable and hidden. So if we want to be able to see it, then we've got to go find it. So here's our translate X, Y, and Z. And then you're just going to click the button to move it from this column over to this column. And this button will move it the other way. So we click move, look, boom, they've showed up. We see the gray, so they're still locked. So we have to go to that lock tab and hit our translate X, Y, and Z and move it back over to non-locked. Or once they're selected, we can go in and there's an unlock selected that we can hit as well. Okay, so that's how you get all your attributes back. You just have to find them in this list, which lists a lot of stuff, and make sure you're grabbing the right stuff, because look, there's scale XYZ, but here's also scale pivot XYZ, and here's scale pivot translate X, Y, and Z, and all those things do different stuff. So pay attention to what you're grabbing, that your rotates really are your rotates, and we'll move these back and we'll make sure that they are locked as well. So there we go. So locked and hidden again. Okay, so that's how you get those attributes back if you want to have them. Okay, all right. At this point, your rig is really done. You've cleaned up everything, you've gone through it all, and it's done. You're ready for animating. The last thing I would do is I would select this group here, and I would go File and export my selection and name it your Tesla rig, you know, whatever that final name needs to be. You just name it that. And when we export it, it makes sure that it's only taking all the stuff that is essential, connected, and tied to what we have selected, and gets rid of anything that we may have created accidentally or that is just garbage. If we have extra nodes that are in here that we don't need, it's not going to send them with it. Okay, so and then you'll be all set. So yeah, congratulations, you made it. You have rigged your final character or your first character. So I can show you. So, okay, I'll show you here. I've finished up this one here, and you can see I've got the skinning worked out a lot better on everything, and she is ready to go. We have our eye controls. We have everything that we need to get started and kind of create some great and fun animations. So good job. You made it. You survived. I know this was in depth. It was a bit long, and I apologize for that. But if you are brand new to rigging, then this should give you a really good in-depth understanding and knowledge of what's happening in kind of a base standard rig. Okay, so good luck with all of your rigging, with your future rigging endeavors. If you have questions or concerns or anything like that, feel free to comment down below, and I will be happy to see however I can help you with that. So good job, and have fun animating with this. Okay, and we'll, whatever comes, rotate her hand up, her clavicle, and I'll rotate her arm, and she can wave goodbye. Bye. Thanks for rigging me. Oh, you're so very welcome. All right, anyways, that was weird. Okay. Good luck.